Hey everybody, welcome to the pre-market analysis that we do every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. Just going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of what's going to happen here. This is Spartan speaking, by the way. Once I'm done talking, Beth's going to come on, give you a breakdown of the news events, macro events that happen over the course of the evening, as well as that are going on today. I'm going to be going through bigger picture ETF items, bigger picture names that make sense to be looking at today, as well as anything that's coming up throughout the day, maybe tomorrow as well. After that's done, I'm going to come on, give you a breakdown of the names that I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll go through the news associated with those events, as well as the technicals, build an actual plan for the open on those names, and then go through the SPY and the FANG. After that's done, South Beach will come on, go through the individual names that he's looking at today, macro, as well on those, and any analyst calls that are notable for the day. Once that's done, we'll do a quick little recap and we'll be ready for the open. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Beth and I'll talk to you guys shortly. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome, pre-market here at SpartanTrading.com. It is Wednesday morning, so we got our live YouTube friends joining us as well as our members. We have round day 2 of the Powell-Yellen testimony. There was a little bit of disconnect between the two, and we'll go over that in a little bit. We also have the API crude came out yesterday, and there was they were looking for a draw, and it actually was a build. So, yeah, okay. So here we have with the in the UK, it's really, I find remarkable the inability to reflate prices for any sustainable time. It's just fantastically amazing historically how this is playing out. The PMI came out in terms of the German better than expected. Nice to see that. And then we have our durable goods today, right? Boken, a lot of Fed hits. They've been talking nonstop this week. We have the PMI flash, and then we have the testimony starting again with Powell and Yellen before the Senate this time. And then the EIA, which is like a little random walk sort of thing, and then more Fed heads, Williams, Daly, and Evans. And we'll see what happens on the consumer confidence side out of the European area. Let's see what our gal Kathy was up to. Very, very quiet this week with quarter end stuff going on, rebalancing, profit taking. To me, to be honest with you, it's more a function of profit taking than rebalancing. We'll see how this plays out. There's a fascinating, I've read a few blurbs about what's going on in the 10-year, that the institutions basically are too light in that in the 10-year, and that they have to buy more bonds. That leads to my feeling that we've already seen a high in terms of interest rates, and now we're trying to figure out what the low for the next range that we're going to be in, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Taiwan Semi, let's talk about what's going on here. Okay, Intel, it's going to start manufacturing right here in the US, $20 billion, 2024. It's remarkable because this company, they guide lower on sales, they guide lower on earnings. I know they have new management and stuff like that, but I don't know. So Taiwan Semi on the other side of that coin, they provide 60% of the worldwide chips, if you did not know that, but they go to 90% of the profits. So that's why you see Taiwan Semi selling off a little bit. Not a lot, but it's notable. And then you have like AMAT going up on the chip side, which, this is one that my fan favorite. I prefer AMAT above Intel, mainly because AMAT, it's a different narrative right now. A little bit on the AVGO, But for the most part, it's on the chip manufacturers right now. Okay. All right, Powell and Yellen, timeline. This is where it's fascinating because she thinks we're going to get back to full employment by next year, and Powell is not there. So Powell is top dog, and we have to let him do his thing. All the Fed heads are saying the same thing for the most part. But I think we're starting to see more and more potential where they might start to have to stop quantitative easing sooner, not because of bad, but because of good in terms of economic recovery. What's going on overseas in terms of Brazil, Chile, et cetera, in the European zone, European area, we have to be aware of. Barron's 5 beaten down. If you are not in any of these renewable energy stocks, down 31%, 29%, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a long-term investment. That's for me. And I have not added to it. I did actually add some SunPower as an investment. But beyond that, I know that some are in TAN, et cetera, as well. So I think it's something that you have to have in your portfolio. Duplex. Let's see what's going on. Nothing much on the insider selling, guys. It's, quarter end. You're not going to see a lot of stuff. We did see some N Global, Intertech. For me, it's more a function of the commodity side to get a really good idea of what's going on. This is actually bullish if we're not seeing any sort of insider selling, but it's also timing, right? In terms of, my success rate has to be above 70%. So Avalon Bay, sell 12.31%, and equity residential. And these guys didn't make the cut. So we'll see what South Beach has to say about it. I know that this ANF is interesting. We'll see how he likes it. Helios Medical. So, but they don't rise, 1 star, Credit Suisse, no way. Sorry. No. Let's see. Beautiful heat map, guys. Green, we like green. Lots of green. Yesterday, I told you at the end of the day about the put call that we were going to get a bounce in the market this morning. Obviously, this green heat map also tells us we're going to get a bounce in the market, and we've got it. Now, the question is going to be, what's the quality of the bounce? So the IWM was down to single digits. I got out of, in terms of my April hedges, 3/4 of it. It did what I needed to do. I still have going out to January 2022. I want, it's the bounce is a function of can it hold? I don't think we're done yet on the downside. And it'll make sense to you when you look at the SPY, et cetera. But anything that's green and anything that's really dark green tells me that it's going to get a bounce, right? And then you have here, this is a positive heat map. And then very little, right? We used to have a lot of red, very little now. So the market did a good job with this profit taking in terms of taking care of the frothiness. So the question is now going to be whether it's sustainable. Yesterday, FANG held up really well. Even Apple, shock of shocks, really held up well. But Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, all of these guys, Netflix, did a really good job. They've closed green, which I think is really positive. And one would expect, right, that this would continue on. If we are going to see some sort of rotation, and we're starting to enter strong seasonality on the tech side. So I would expect the Qs, I would expect the XLK start to sustain the rally and start to move higher. Okay, country-wise, all green, except Brazil, light green. Nigeria, for the most part, globally, profit taking. It's a very efficient way with quarter end. I have to say, though, this was more than I expected, but on the other side of the coin, we saw rallies that were greater than one would normally see in a 6-month period or 3-month period, and the market being efficient as it is, these guys want to book the profits and then take that money. The question is going to be, where does it go back to or start to for new funds? We're not seeing that yet. We won't see that till April to see what happens. SPY, I said, only 2 positive days for the rest of the month, starting in last week. Okay, this is what it looks like. There's a reason why it looks like this. There's a reason why the market's selling off. Right? Only 2 positive days from the 19th to the end of the month. 2. Let's see. I mean, you can't look specifically at individual days, but you can look at it as the breadth of it overall, that we still have some more selling to happen, and it gains steam. Okay. And it gains steam as well on the downside here. Okay. So this is basically 71% back test, going back, that this is going to be a robustly red day. So let's take a look now at the Russell. Not so. I'm thinking that this was the capitulation right here. And then I start to think that we're going to get some positive, but it's so different. And the reason why I say that is because this is more, if you go back to the dot-com bubble, there was multiple years of the small cap rallying. So, it is factored in, okay, going back 30 years. But I don't know if we're going to get this sort of 73%, 72%. Well, we will soon find out. I have not added to I'm not in the TNA. We discussed that for a reason. It's too expensive. I have not added to my Delta IWM calls yet. And those are all out to June. It has more work to be done, and we'll see if it can start to reclaim. But we should get at least a sustainable bounce on the Russell today. Right? Let's look at flows into SPY, right? Diamonds, Qs, money came out of. Really interesting, right? You would not have thought that, the price action. And here you have the heat map on the S&P for the different ETFs. XLK was green yesterday, right? XLC green, XLP green. What wasn't? XLF, XLI, XLV, XLE, XLB. So a lot of this was profit taking, and you can see why it would be profit taking, because the energy is still up 26% for year to date. If you go back 6 months, it's a lot more, talking 100%. Well, maybe less than 100%. Financials, still double digit. This is what I want to see happen. I want to see XLV and XLK start to pick up steam, as well as XLP. So these are the 3 ETFs that I'm focused in on right now in terms of the next quarter, where money's going to flow into. Okay, let's look at the bonds globally. As you can see, all of them have the yields coming down, the actual bonds rallying. We've seen this for the last couple of days, and a lot of this is a function, guys, that once again, the institutions, they oversold. Okay, so don't forget, a lot of these are dictated in terms of what sort of percentage they have on their books, right? And if they are way out of whack, then that's something has to happen there. And that's why we're seeing more and more of this with the bonds rallying. We will know more come April, whether the game is afoot again in terms of selling the bonds and buying other asset classes. Hey, Tesla, Bitcoin. This is really interesting, guys. I think, to be honest with you, we bounced right off the 61.8% fib. But beyond that, I still think they've got this wrong. A lot of the big poo-pahs, I continue to think that this is an asset class in terms of flight to quality. I don't think so. I still think this going forward is a payment, fintech type thing, right? It's a payment thing. Tesla now is going to accept Bitcoin, okay, for the cars. And that's what you would expect. Not on an asset class. You can use gold, right, to buy your Tesla car, but you can use Bitcoin. So, like I said, I just think they're getting it wrong, and time will tell. But that's my thought, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, let's look at Carolyn Borden's work, the Fibonacci thing, and this adds to this. It's a sloppy choppy, right? We've got timing, we got price. Look at how many we've got: 23rd, 25th, 31st. You know, and this is time, price, and then timing down here, all over the place. And this is indicative of this time of season where you see this. Okay, it's sloppy choppy. This is what sloppy choppy looks like if you're looking in terms of time and price. And here we have, this is Facebook, just to give you an idea as well. Okay, this is her work that she's done. Ugh, Jesus. Sorry about that. But anyway, same narrative. Okay, sloppy choppy. Look at this. And sloppy choppy happens for Facebook, guys, in April. Look at this. Look at the cluster of stuff. Just saying. 10-year. What do we got? Interesting range right now. Top end of the range is 175. Bottom end of the range right now is 158. That's basically, 17.17 on the yield. Is this enough? I don't know, but I still think this is the top. We're going to figure out what the bottom is. The question is going to be whether this holds or not, and whether we bop around for a while. If this doesn't hold clearly, then we're going to be going down, basically down here to this fib, 38.2% fib. Okay. Time will tell. The things that's going on right now, guys, is that this is being used like we would see in terms of an asset class, in terms of commodity, when you see these types of price action. But as you can see here, right, how long it took to go from 1.95 all the way down to 0.35, right, which is crazy, right? So this would be the elevator down and the escalator up. And if we did not have the virus, right, pandemic, I don't believe this would have happened. I think we would have been in this range and happily staying within this range right up top here. Dollar. Rallied right up. This is going to be important. I saw some UUP call sweeps going through, which is notable. That's the US dollar ETF, one of the US dollars ETF. We're here at 92.64, which is also, as you can see here, 63 is the 100 EMA on the monthly. So we're at key resistance, and you see we have an extension going back to 2018 as well. One would not expect this to continue to go higher if indeed on the interest rate side, rates are starting to go back. But there's other things that are going on that are playing into the dollar rally. Like I say, we'll see how this plays out. If it does break this 92.63, then this can rally all the way up to 93.35. It's a very interesting narrative going on, at least on the dollar side. All right, let's take a look at gold. Yeah, it's just, it's funny because over here people were saying, oh, we got a low in place, we got a low in place. I just don't think quite yet. Soon, but I don't think quite yet. It's such a shit show going on in terms of this rotation, seeing where the money's flowing. For me, we have to start seeing, I still have not added that much on. I did add a little bit of GDXJ, to be honest with you, but I'd like to see a green candle, please and thank you, on the monthly. We'll know next week how that's going to look. Microsoft, Spartan's been nailing this, fantastic. So this is why when you look at some of these charts, guys, you can see that it's a function of profit taking and rotation, right? And most of that, a lot of that is happening on the indices side, like what we saw yesterday on the Russell, right? Microsoft has been the leader of the pack. I'd love to see it basically break and hold this week's low, high, I'm sorry, and then start to scooch up. The reason why I say that is because it's a multi-month sideways consolidation breakout, and it's holding the breakout level as well. So, I'd love to see this sideways consolidate and then start to move higher. Okay? So this got us all the way back to June 2020, and then we had the breakout in January, and now we see consolidative and then start to push higher. FANG, look at that. I mean, this is a weekly chart of FANG, guys. No damage has been done here. It doesn't feel that way, but if you look at longer dated charts, it gives you a better perspective. This is why I look at weekly and monthlies, because according to this, okay, yeah, we got up to this extension. Okay, we haven't taken out last week's low, so it's an inside consolidative week. Next week will be a little bit more interesting to see how that plays out. But for all intents and purposes, FANG as a whole is holding up fine. And the fact that it hasn't taken out last week's low is very positive. Russell, even if you look at Russell on the monthly, guys, this is what happens when you have these humongous price moves. It literally bounced off of this channel yesterday. Actually, that wasn't yesterday, but at the beginning of the month, right? Look at it. It's still holding above the breakout level. This is fantastic. Yeah, it's basically becoming more of an inside month. We have that spike, but no damage has been done to the Russell on a monthly basis. I know it seems like, oh my God, the sky is falling. IWM. Okay, let's see what it's got. It basically, the reason why I took off 3/4 of my short-term hedge on the small caps is because of this. It basically rallied into the extension, right? You don't assume, and also the support pivot. So you don't assume that this is going to break. This is like a commodity, right? You buy when nobody wants to buy and you sell when nobody wants to sell. So yesterday, I basically took some off. Once again, I did not add to my small cap Delta trade on IWM. I'll keep an eye on it. It has more work to be done. I still don't think we're done. We may be done, but I don't think we're done on the sloppy choppy for the rest of the month, quarter, etc. XLK. Once again, weekly, no damage done here. Basically is sitting right on this extension. It bounced off of it. Let's see what it can do. So the moral to this story is, yeah, but. Now the XLK narrative is more the fact that basically in February, it topped. Now it's finding a base. So what would I would expect? I would expect it to start to curl up. Maybe do one of those little, saucer handle doodahs, But from technically, it looks fine. No damage done. All right, let's look at the XLP. Same story. No damage done. Right? And in fact, we broke this is a monthly. We broke this downtrend line. And this is why I think XLP is going to be a catch-up type trade. So I was consolidated for multiple months, and I think we're going to break out and start to go higher. I know that Spartan's been playing like Pepsi, KO, stuff like that. And that's what you would do in this sort of environment right now. Right? Okay. XLC. Weekly, this is Facebook, Google, right? It's also communications, but you get the idea on that one. So it's still holding this month, this weekly extension that goes back to February. No damage done here. It's an inside week from last week. Where I would start saying, if we basically close below this extension on Friday, that would definitely get my attention. And then I might put some puts on. Out of the money puts with the expectation that it can move all the way down here. More than likely down here would be 75, but 72.50. This is really, it's a very complex profit-taking rotation going on right now, right? And we're starting to see with more clarity, we're obviously on the energy side, right? Obviously on the small cap side, those are the two some of the two top financials, right? Those are three areas that had very low profits in them that we see the money coming out. We don't actually see the money coming in yet, okay? Where it's going to be and whether there's any theme or not, okay? We do know that this TNF business is kind of fun, but aside from that, my time is up. Once again, welcome to those of you joining us for a live YouTube stream, as well as our new members. Spartan will go over the deets further down, and it's time for me to pass it up to him. Are you ready, sir?
Need about 1 minute here, Beth, please.
Not a problem. Okay, let's look at XLY. So XLY is basically Tesla and Amazon. And I really like the XLY right now because I think Amazon is getting its jiggy on, and Tesla, I think, it's a little bit of a sloppy choppy, but I don't think we're done yet with the Tesla narrative. You can look at this if you want on the downtrend line here. It did hold this extension, okay? Let's see how far back it goes. So it goes all the way back to June of 2019. So this is a pretty important extension as long as it holds above it right now. The XLY is fine. I would put on some put protection if it basically broke this extension. So that's how I'm looking at these things. On a monthly basis, I want to look at the larger picture and then we go from there. Let's bring up the VIX while I have the time so you can see this. I kind of, was a little bit adamant about it popping a little bit, that this double bottom would hold, yada, yada, yada. It is holding right now. The question's going to be, okay, what's the upside? I would think, to be honest with you, that it would kind of get us a little bit higher, maybe up to 2368. But for all intents and purposes, I just don't think that this this double bottom here is going to break. The VXX is a different story, right? It's meant to go to zero. It's a decaying asset. The VIX is totally different, but the VXX will continue. There'll continue to be a divergence between the two of them, and it will be self-evident. All you have to do is look at the VIX against the VXX, and you can see what's going on there, right? It is holding up a little bit, but the VXX has been weakening against the VIX, and one would expect that that should continue. It's a beautiful H pattern, right, on the monthly. So, like I say, we'll see how things play out. Put call was at 65. So I mentioned this yesterday at the close. This is the top end of the range, or has been the top end of the range. So we should get a little bit of a rally. And this has been the range that has been going back for quite some time, which is notable, right? Normally the mean would be 70s, guys, right? But when you have a strong market, bullish market of this sort, then the mean is basically down. So the mean is now in the mid 50s. So this was the top end of the range, and that's why we're saying that we would get a bounce in the market. I don't know if the bounce is going to be sustainable. So just be aware of that. Spartan's going to do the micro stuff, so we'll keep an eye on that. We did get the pull back. It is flagging. I just don't, like I said, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see the.
All right, Beth, I'm ready to go on.
You are? Okay.
All right, you guys, morning. What's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. If you guys are new to chat, I'm going to post a Discord link for you guys later on. So just have to be patient waiting for that. Let's take a look at what we have on deck for this morning. A couple of different things that we're looking at. Pre-market tickers on watch: ASML, GME, AMAT, Riot, DLPN, HOFV. ASML, Cowan & Co. upgrades. ASML Holdings don't perform. Stocks gapping up on that. GME earnings miss. EPS and revs year-over-year growth negative 3.3%. Stocks gapping down. AMAT gapping up in sympathy with Intel. Riot bouncing in sympathy with Bitcoin. DLPN gapping up in continued momentum from yesterday's NFT announcement. And then HOFE gapping up in continuation from their partnership with DLPN. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two we'll be looking at today: ASML and GME. All righty. Let's take a look at these two here. So ASML, stocks gapping up. Right about 591, so pretty close to those all-time highs. $584.42 pivot to the upside today on this ASML. This level is able to hold. We do have room for continuation of 596.09 to 601.73. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 575.53 to 567.04 on the downside. Overall on ASML, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a hold of the pivot, continuation grind higher towards that all-time highs. Broke with the head and shoulders on the daily, bullish looking chart with some room for continuation. So I do like that. We'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at GME. So stocks gapping down after the earnings. Quite a decently large move in the pre-market. All right, let's take a look at this thing intraday here. That's going to be kind of annoying. Yeah, it is what it is, that misprint candle. Okay, 158.67 pivot to the downside today. Levels able to hold room back towards 170, 109 to 185.29. If you break that level, then obviously retest last day's highs. Unable to hold, look for pullback towards 144.12 to the 131.70 level on the downside. Overall, going to be leading on the bearish side today. I think what we'll see is a retest of that 50 MA on the daily, and then I'll probably be looking for a bounce off of it. So. And that level is around, I believe, around 140 or 130. So around that lower end support, about 131 level. Let's look for a retest of that and a bounce. I'm thinking that's where we get down to. So I'll be leaning bearish out the gate for now. So that's ASML and that is GME. All right, let's take a look at the next two. AMAT Ride. Alrighty. 121.54 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 123.21 to 124.51 on the upside. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 119.35 to the 117.66 level on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Bullish neutral, looking for a continuation grind higher on AMAT towards those all-time highs. I do like the daily chart quite a bit. Nice range break setup. Just a matter of getting through that level for continuation. So we'll see what happens there. So that is AMAT. Let's take a look at Riot. It's a little bit of a bounce after last day's move. We still use the same levels. Yep. Lower end support. 54.01 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold, room towards 57 to 61.15. Unable to hold 51.26 to 49.04 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Riot, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side as well today, looking for a hold of the pivot continuation on this bounce to the upside. We test short-term EMA resistance on the daily. We'll see what happens there. That is what I'm looking for. Alrighty, so that's AMAT, that's Riot. Let's take a look at the next two. So H or DLPN and HOFV. Alrighty, let's take a look at DLPN here. Okay. All right, go straight intraday fibs. All right, 3066 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold on DLPN. Room towards 34.97 to 41.89. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback to 24.05 to 18.38 on the downside. Overall on DLPN, going to be watching for a little bit of a pullback this morning, and then basing to see if they can get another long in the name. Still tons of momentum there. I think it's going to act like TCAT, where you get these little pullbacks and then continuation pushes. So we'll see what happens. Watch the pivot. That's going to be a key level. HOFE. Let's take a look at this. So these guys announced partnership with DLPN. All righty. So HOFE 711 pivot to the upside today. Level's able to hold. You got room towards 874. That level breaks. You got room for continuation into the 991 area. Unable to hold 505 to 364 will be tested on the downside. Overall on HOFE, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for a pop topping, take the name short out the gate. We'll see what occurs. You got to be careful, obviously, shorting those NFT names, guys, because they do get quite a bit of continuation. Wait for the blow-offs. Play them long until then. That's why I'll be leaning on that one. All right, so that's DLPN. That's HOFE. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG, see what's going on. So market bouncing today. $39.85. Back above EMA support on the daily. Uptrend is still intact in the longer or the bigger picture point of view. I think one of the better things you can do, guys, on the market is suck in a tighter range. Just look at the weekly or look at the monthly. Look at the bigger picture. It kind of tells you, well, it gives you a way better understanding of what's actually going on here. Everything's intact from a bullish standpoint still. Let's quickly go to the hourly real fast. I think this is notable to point out. There's your downtrend on the daily. Now this is where we got rejected at yesterday and sold off. So we'll see what happens this morning if we can get through it or not. That's going to be the big key. That's the flag break on the daily. And that's where all the basically issues have been coming from the last couple of days. Unable to get through that level of resistance. I can't do anything with this candle. All right. Let's just draw it out, I guess. $390.83 pivot to the downside or upside today, I should say. Levels able to hold room towards 329, 392, sorry, 29. That level breaks 394.16 will be tested. Unable to hold 389.02 to the 387.53 will be tested on the downside. Overall on the SPY, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for continuation higher. If we're able to hold that 390.83 support to the upside. So leaning bullish neutral, but we got to get through this downtrend. That's going to be a major key. So we'll see what happens there. Let me take a screenshot of the SPY. Let's take a look at Apple. So we've been seeing some rebalancing and obviously some rotation back into tech the last couple days. Apple on the daily holding EMA support. Inverted head and shoulders held nicely. Fairly constructive off the low so far. All right. Pivot to the upside today is going to be this 123.66 spot. Levels able to hold. You got room towards the 125.29 to 126.94. I don't think you need to go that high. Unable to hold 121.51 will be tested to the 120.21 level on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Apple today, looking for a grind higher. We'll see if we're able to get through the pivot, make the next leg up. Let's take a look at Amazon here. Amazon, one of the better looking FANG names yesterday, relative strength. Hit the 50 EMA, a little bit of a rejection, a little bit extended into that level, 3108 for gap fill. Okay. There you go, next two resistance levels. Interesting chart for sure. All right, 31.38.21 pivot levels able to hold through towards 31.72 to 31.90. That level breaks. 32.08 will be tested. Unable to hold a pivot, we look for a pullback towards 30.97.34 on the downside. It is extended to the upside right now. Gap fill area, like I said, is 31.08. Now, just because it's extended doesn't mean it needs to pull back. But if it does start to pull back, that is the level I think it gets to. Going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a gap fill at some point. That's Amazon. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix a little bit extended, did break through the 50 EMA yesterday. I assume this is a misprint candle, but let's look on the L2. Yep. So 537.13 pivot levels able to hold room towards 545.89 resistance. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 530.53 on the downside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side as well today, looking for a little bit of a pullback into the lower end support just because it is extended to the upside. So that is Netflix. Let's take a look at Facebook here. A lot of the FANG is slightly extended, looks like. Definitely like Facebook one of the best, though. Still looks good. $291.96 pivot to the upside today on Facebook. Levels able to hold. We got room towards the 297.26 to the 299.82. Unable to hold 295.44 will be tested. Going to be leaning on the bullish side of Facebook today. Bullish neutral, looking for a hold of the pivot. Continuation grind higher. Looks like that gap was filled in the pre-market. So I'm going to be looking for that continuation push higher. Obviously, Facebook, a little bit of a flag forming on the hourly. Keep an eye on that. That will be a key break to the upside. For continuation, that is. So that's Facebook. Let's take a look at Google. $20.54.24 pivot levels able to hold. We got room towards 21.10, 95 on the upside. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback towards the 2017.44 level on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation higher. Still stuck within the whatchamacallit, the range on the daily chart. So nothing really changing there. We'll see if it's able to hold up. All right, so that's Google. Let's take a look at the VXX. All right, guys, VXX. So basically, I already know the levels. Where's that? 1296. All right, so essentially we got that 1195 is the pivot to the downside today. Actually, might as well use 1264. This level's unable to be reclaimed. We got room lower towards 1195, able to hold, look for a push back towards market should come in. You'll see maybe a reclaim, maybe a push towards 1314. Doubt we'll get that high, but watch for a push into the pivot. If we do get that, obviously market's going to come in. We'll get rejected at that downtrend test on the daily. And well, we'll get the next leg down. So keep an eye on that. That's going to be the key thing to be watching. Spy on the downtrend, VXX. Direction towards the pivot or away from it this morning or today, just in general. So anyways, that's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. I'm going to go ahead, pass over to South Beach, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Guys, good morning. Okay, so I missed the fireworks yesterday. It seems like every time I leave the office, the market gets absolutely obliterated. I think I'm 3 for 3. So The next time I leave, guys, you should buy puts. I think I'm going to do that. Anyway, let's see what's going on today. Of course, we look at bonds. Okay. 10 years at 162, down to just a little bit. Hold on one second. Okay, so it's 1628. I think it got up to 175. Okay, and we remember what you know, at the time, what's his name was saying. You know, what's his name? He said that we were in the trading range, and that was the top of the range. And I think he's right. I think over time we'll be fine. You know, it'll go a little higher, but as long as it doesn't move too far, too fast, I think the market is okay. So we'll talk about what's going on in the market in a minute, but let's look at the rest of our indicators first. Okay. Let's look at commodities. Oil's up $1.40, so it's you know, getting some of the you know, it got smashed yesterday, right? So it's coming back just a little bit. Gold, who cares? Silver, who cares? And copper's hanging in there at 407. I just think gold and silver are just not good indicators of the economy. That's why I don't care about it. Whereas copper, I think is. That's why I just pass over gold. It goes up, it goes down. I don't trade it. I don't care about it. I never did, never will. That doesn't mean you can't, but it doesn't tell me anything. Currencies, dollars down in North America. In Europe, in Asia, it's up against the yen, holding, you know, pretty well against the Chinese currency, up a little bit. Looks like it kind of feels like it made a low. And that Chinese stock market's been struggling a little bit lately. Europe, you have the euro really doesn't change much. It's trading at 118 today. It's between 118 and 119 for like forever now, it seems. Okay, Bitcoin's getting a boost this morning from Tesla, it seems. You heard what he said, right? He's going to accept Bitcoin for cars, and when he gets it, he's not going to sell it. So it's a really interesting thing. It kind of you know, it's almost like buying crypto at a discount, and he thinks it's going to go up over time. We have a finite amount of crypto of Bitcoin that's going to be around. So in effect, he's soaking up supply, and he's getting it at a discount. Seems like a pretty smart idea to me, but it seems like everything that he does is pretty smart to me. So I think that's an interesting take, the way he's looking at it. He's just a really smart dude. And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay, we have the FTSE's down just a little bit, 17 points, which is 0.26. DAX is down 0.61. Over in Asia, I said China's been having a rough go of it as of late. They're down. What are they down today? CSI, they're down about 1.5%. Nikkei's down 2%. Hong Kong is down 2%. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so what's going on in the market? You know, a few days ago, I got negative on travel-related stocks. Why? Because Europe was having a resurgence of the virus. Okay, make no mistake, this is just a speed bump, in my opinion. Okay. They're having problems because I think Europe is completely mismanaged. I think their leadership is kind of sort of a joke, and they're cheap. Okay, whereas Trump was buying, you know, all the supply he can get his hands on prior to them even saying that the vaccine worked. Europe was being pretty diligent or stingy, or however you want to look at it, in trying to grab up supply. So now that the thing works, they say, okay, where's the supply? And it's everywhere else but with them. But this, you know, we're going to be fully vaccinated, what they say, by sometime in the summer if we want to be. And it's going to work out for Europe, just like, you know, because there's going to be vaccines around, all right? And they're going to get vaccinated as well. So in my opinion, this is just a speed bump. It's an opportunity to buy some of these names a little bit cheaper. and the problems that Europe's having is definitely going to go away. Okay, so if you look at what happened yesterday, as far as Mr. Market is concerned, pretty much everything got smashed. High PE was okay. Consumer non-durables were okay. And I've been saying the last few days, high PE would be good. And I wouldn't go with travel-related type of names, the carnivals, the airlines, the banks, and stuff like that, right? That I think is going to change, okay? Because the stock market is forward-looking, okay? And I think what's happening in Europe is a bit of a shock, especially to the U.S. investors, because we're seeing things get better here quickly. Even though New York and New Jersey are saying, let's slow down a little bit. There's vaccines around, you can get them if you want. The age has been reduced to 50, I think, in most places. And these drug companies are terrific at getting vaccines out. So I think this is just a speed bump, and things are going to get back to normal pretty quickly. I mean, I heard what's his name was on TV today, Barry Sternlicht, and whenever a guy like that talks, you got to pay attention, because when I always talk about the smartest guy in the room, and he's one of them. So when he says something, you have to listen. And he was saying his hotel down here in Miami, the one, is booking greater than it was in 2019. The restaurants he owns are doing better than they did in 2019. So, he says that there's pent up demand in most places for office space, ex-New York, which was overbuilt. And he thinks that's going to come back. And so he painted a pretty optimistic picture about the economy. And he has his, I think, his finger on the pulse because of the businesses he's in, and he's a straight shooter. So you have to listen to what he says. I think that some of these stocks that have gotten smashed, it's just an opportunity to buy them. I don't think the market's got issues. I think the only thing that could really screw the market up is huge taxes. He did talk about the stimulus bill, and he kind of sort of said what I've been saying, which is it's a bit of a joke. It was conceived when we needed the stimulus, and it was executed when we didn't. So he says it was a complete kind of joke that we spent $1.9 trillion on. Really, most of the money went to places that didn't need the money. I'm all for giving it to people who do need it. Don't think I have no heart, but I mean, $1.9 trillion sprinkled around for places is a bit of a joke. Anyway, he talked about SPACs as well. That was his reason for coming on TV. And there were 10 SPACs yesterday. The SPAC market is completely saturated with dog do, to be honest. He says, like he was trying to buy a company. He gave this example, which was really interesting. He was trying to buy a company, and he said he needed 60-day due diligence, and somebody else offered them 3 days due diligence. You can't do due diligence in 3 days. So he says there's a lot of crap out there. People aren't looking what they're getting. They're trying to sell it to the public and get out as fast as possible, and get their payday. So you got to be really careful with what you buy. But if you're a smart dude and you can, for me, I think it plays right into my hand. I could find, companies trading at valuations that are very attractive. If you look through all the mush, you can find some good companies in there. And that's what I'm trying to do, because for the most part, they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and everything's trading at basically parity to cash. And so you can find some gems in here if you're really diligent. So that's what I've been trying to do. Like that TBA, I think, is one of those situations that I mentioned to you guys the other day. But the SPAC market and the new issue market is completely overtaking the market. And that's another problem. So I think the tax issue is a headwind for the market. We got to see what this administration does as far as taxing people. And I think the amount of offerings coming out is another thing that could be negative for the market. I do not think it's the pandemic. Okay, I think the pandemic will be in the rearview mirror here soon. and shortly thereafter, I think it'll be in the rearview mirror in Europe. I'll answer that question a little later on. Okay. What else is going on that I think is interesting? You had Tom Lee on TV last night. Tom Lee is a pretty smart dude, really good, market savvy guy. And he was saying this thing is, what he said was really super interesting to me. So prior to 1982, rates went up for a long period of time. Okay, they went from, whatever it was, 2% after World War II up to 13, 14% in 1982. And since 1982, rates have been going down. Exactly. Okay, so what he said during that period, prior to 1982, post-war, cyclical stocks always trounced value stocks always trounced growth stocks. Okay, and so he's saying that the pandemic was almost like a post-war situation, and I think that's a fair analogy. And he's saying that the new growth stocks are going to be the value stocks, and that the traditional growth stocks will take a back seat to these value stocks going forward. I think it was an interesting way to look at it, and I think it resonated with me pretty well, and I think it's something to keep an eye on. And I think he has a really good point in that. All right, I thought that was super interesting. Let's see what else is going on. Intel. So you had Intel CEO, you had their first real talk yesterday. They had an update on what's going on in that company, right? And you had the new CEO. I've always said to you guys, a shit CEO can bring a great company to its knees, and a great CEO can make magic happen with a crappy company. I think you don't have to look much further than GE. You had Jack Welch in there. Company performed like a monster. They replaced him with Jeffrey Emmelt, who was a buffoon. Stock came, was brought down to its knees. And now you have another good guy in there, Larry Culp, who's trying to get GE going again. And that's kind of sort of what's happening with Intel. Okay, they had really good leadership for a while. Then they had a series of CEOs who were really kind of buffoons. And now it seems as though they brought in a really good guy. All right, he left the firm. He was at Intel. He went to Tableau. He totally knocked the cover off the ball at Tableau. He ended up selling out to Salesforce. And in my opinion, he's probably the right guy. Stocks had a great run. I wouldn't be surprised if it digested some here, but I think it's a little bit of a negative for the AMDs of the world, because all of a sudden the sleeping giants waking up. And I think over time, Intel will be a good investment. Right here, it ran, pretty far, so I'm not really, keen on it at these levels. But over time, I think it'll do really well, and it'll be a real competitor for companies that have walked all over them, like AMD. And it's a real positive for these semi-cap equipment companies, because if they're going to start building plants around the world, which they said they are. They're starting with 2 in Arizona. These guys are going to keep busy, and they're going to do well there. You see Lam and Clack and AMAT trading up today. That's, pretty much because of Intel. So I think that's interesting. What else do we have? That's a lot, isn't it? I think. So tonight you have earnings from KBH, RH, SCVL, and tomorrow you got Carnival Cruise. I don't really think Carnival's earnings matter. I think it's they're looking forward, not in the rearview mirror, and see what their balance sheet looks like and whatever. But based upon what's happening in Europe, I would doubt these companies are going to just kick ass. I think they'll take some time, because they do make a lot of their money in the summertime, and it appears as though Europe is not going to get this summer travel season, be in shape for the summer travel season. It'll be sometime after that. So I'm not so keen on them. Maybe you'll get a bounce, but that's not where I'm looking. What else? In research today, you had some, intel, some guy like Barclays says sell the stock. You had some people say buy the stock. Baird has an 85 target. Barclays has a 58 target. Both probably wrong. But you know what I'm thinking in that stock, okay? What else is going on? GME, people are saying it's worth 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever. At the end of the day, it's going to trade there. It's just going to take a while. So we'll see. The only call on the long side that turned me on was this AA call out of Morgan Stanley. They went from equal to outperform with a 43 target. Stock's 27. For some reason, they didn't like FCX, but there was no verbiage with it. So I'm kind of curious as to why, but they didn't say why. So I can't tell you why. Other than that, I think, the normal course of things, like Adobe had good earnings, so everybody's saying they like Adobe. Goldman does like Baidu. That's kind of interesting. They have a 285 target, increase from 283. I think they do that so that you read the research. They can come out with something, so they change the target. But the stock's 261, and they like that. HIG, Barclays raises the target from 65 to 73. This stock's going to have an 8 in front of it. If they auctioned off this company, it would have an 8 in front of it. I'm convinced. Okay, and there would be more than one bidders. I know for a fact, that other insurance companies have made bids for this company. And when I say I know for a fact, I know for a fact. Okay, so whatever. There's other guys waiting in the wings. I'm sure they've called this company to see what the gig is. All right, are they for sale or are they not? And you don't see hostile deals in the insurance business very often. Okay, it's a rare event. So I thought that's my sense on that one. Other than that, insider buying, you had TPGY again. There's one SPAC insiders buy every day and they haven't announced the target yet. I think I mentioned it before, SAII. I don't know what's going on there, but it appears that something is, or they think it is, whoever the buyer is. Let's see what else. Did you get? I know you guys asked a couple of questions. My 3 favorite SPACs long term. Rob, I'm still looking at this carefully. I know I like TBA. Okay. I know I like AONE. And I'm kind of looking at one real carefully now that I'm not prepared to tell you guys yet because I'm not convinced. I have to do some more work. As far as SoFi, IPOE, Daloon, is it still trading at an attractive price? I mean, it's 17. It's almost double. I'm not sure. I think you could find stuff trading at 10, 10 and a half. That's worth significantly more than it is. Really great companies. I'm not saying SoFi is not a great company and it's got great management and all that. It does. But I think you could find stuff that's like in the weeds that isn't so high profile, like this TBA and like AONE. And that's what I'm kind of looking for, stuff that people don't talk about. IPOE is pretty high profile. Anyway, that's a lot of stuff today, I think, right? What about GSAH? Did they make a bid for anything yet? I don't think they have a target yet, do they? Did they actually buy someone? Not yet. So I'm not in the business. You don't need to buy these things before there's a deal, because when there is a deal, the stocks don't trade up. So the whole game has changed because of the supply. Okay. Anyway, I'm out of time and I could go on forever. So I'll speak to you guys later. And Spartan, it's all yours, buddy.
Alrighty, thank you, South Beach. As always. Morning, guys. What's going on? Alrighty, so let's take a look at what we got going on today, this morning. A couple different things. If you guys are new to chat, I'm going to post the Discord for you once we close down the YouTube stream, so just be patient waiting for that. Otherwise, let's take a look at what we got going on this morning. A couple different things. Pre-market tickers on watch. What are we looking at today? So, ASML, GME, AMAT, RIDE, DLPN, HOFV, pre-market action plans typed up, by the way. You can just pause it and look at the and read it there on the YouTube stream. There you guys go. Same thing with the option side. Alrighty, let's take a look at what we got going on. A couple different things. ASML, GME, AMAT, Riot, DLPN, HOFE. ASML, Cowan and Co. upgrades ASML holding to outperform, gapping up on that. GME earnings miss, EPS and revs year over year, negative 3.3%. AMAT gapping up in sympathy with Intel. Riot bouncing in sympathy with Bitcoin. DLPN gapping up and continuing momentum from yesterday's NFT announcement. And then HOFE gapping up continuation after their announcement that they're going to be, their partnership with DLPN. So let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. ASML and GME. Alrighty, 584.42 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold towards 596.09 to the 601.75 level on the upside. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 575.53 to 567.04 on the downside. Overall on ASML, going to be leaning on the bullish. Neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. GME, pivot 158.67. Levels unable to hold. We got room towards 144.12 to 131.70. Able to hold 171 to 185.29. Will be tested. Overall, going to be leaning on the bearish side of GME. If that pivot breaks, we're looking for a continuation of a 50 MA on the downside and then a bounce off of that. Let's take a look at the next two, AMAT and Riot. AMAT 121.54 pivot. This level is able to hold. Room towards the 123.21 resistance. That level breaks. 124.51 will be tested. Unable to hold 119.35 to 117.66 will be tested on the downside. Overall on AMAT, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a hold of pivot, continuation grind higher. Riot 54.01 pivot level holds towards $57 to the 61.15. Unable to hold 51.26 to 49.04. Downside support levels. Going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a hold of the pivot, continuation push higher. DLPN, HOFE. Take a look at these two. DLPN 3066 pivot levels able to hold. We got room for continuation into the 3497 resistance. Level breaks 4189 will be tested. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 2405 on the downside today. That level breaks. We see further continuation lower towards 1838. Overall, I'm going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today of DLPN, looking for a pullback basing to take the name along. Let's take a look at HOFE 711 pivot level holds towards 874. That level breaks. We can see further continuation towards the 991 level on the upside. Unable to hold 505 to 364 tested on the downside. Overall on HOFE, looking for pop topping, take the name short. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. SPY 390.83. Pivot to the upside today. This level breaks. Room for continuation into the 392.29 resistance breaks. We see the 394.16 attested. Pivot unable to hold. Room lower into the 389.02 support breaks. We see the 387.53 tested. So leaning bullish neutral, guys, but I'm looking for a break of that downtrend for confirmation. That's the key. That downtrend on the hourly or on the daily, you can draw both same area. Let's take a look at Apple. Pivot to the upside today is going to be 123.66. Levels able to hold. We got room for continuation into the 125.29 level. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback towards 121.51 on the downside. Overall leaning bullish, neutral on Apple today, looking for a continuation grind higher. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot on Amazon today is going to be that 31.38.21 spot, unable to hold, turn towards 30.97, able to hold, look for pushback to 31.72 to 31.90, leaning bearish, neutral on Apple. Sorry, not Apple, Amazon, looking for a continuation pullback, gap fill on that name today. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix pivot 537.13 levels unable to hold, turn towards 530.53 to 522, is able to hold 545.89 will be tested. Overall, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side of Netflix today, looking for a gap fill on the daily as well. Let's take a look at the Facebook. Facebook 291.96 pivot unable to hold, turn towards 285.44. That level holds, turn back to 297.26 to 299.82. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Facebook today, looking for a continuation push higher. Let's take a look at Google. Google pivot to the upside is going to be the 2054.24 spot. Levels able to be reclaimed. Room towards 21.10.95. Unable to hold. 2017.44 will be tested on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of Google today, looking for a continuation higher. So that is that. So let's take a look at the VXX real quick, and then we'll shut down that stream. Uh, 1264 pivot on VXX. You see push towards it, market will come in. You see push away from it until 1195. Obviously, market will continue to push higher. Alrighty, so that's that. That's the spots of FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. If you guys are popping in, watching the YouTube stream, thanks for joining us this morning. Any questions, you can go to Spartan Trading.